KEYGroup is a 30-year international speaking, consulting, assessment, and training company, and it's headquartered in Pittsburgh. Chuck has been working diligently with people just like you and organizations in strategic management of corporations and organizations. He himself is executive client and leads the workforce solution division at KEYGroup. Using customized tools and consultation, he has helped clients significantly reduce hiring costs, improve retention, and increase productivity, especially in the areas of sales, revenue, and profit. I'd like to introduce you today to Chuck Sujansky. And Chuck, you may begin.
Well, thank you very much, Kelly, and welcome everyone. Welcome to the KEYGroup clients and contacts, and also Applied Behavioral Insights people as well. Today we're going to talk about succession planning and why we need to do succession planning, and also how to do it, and also the benefits of succession planning. First of all, why do we need succession planning? Well, because you need to have qualified employees ready to move up in your organization if a manager or an executive leaves the company. Baby boomers make up almost 50% of the workforce right now, and they're retiring at a rate of 3 million per year. The companies need to have a talent pool ready to go to fill the openings created by these boomers leaving, and also just through normal attrition in the workforce. Also, why succession planning? What does it do for you? Succession planning forces an organization to plan for the inevitable turnover, not react to it. It's being proactive, not reactive. Top leaders in an organization can identify future leaders and guide their development to meet the needs of their organization. The benefits of succession planning are several. Now, first of all, it identifies and creates competencies that are necessary for a leader to be successful in their organization. Number two, it ensures a full pipeline of readily available talent. Number three, it avoids talent holes or gaps where employees are not ready to move up into that next managerial or leadership position. It creates better morale because employees know that what their career ladder is or what their next move is within the organization. And it reduces turnover because you're constantly developing and coaching and improving an employee's ability to move up within the organization. If an employee sees that what their career path is, their career ladder, they're more likely to stay in the organization. And number six, the most important, is it increases your bottom line. Because you're reducing turnover, you're going to avoid the turnover expense, and that's going to translate into a healthier bottom line. It's estimated that turnover costs about 1 to 2 times a person's annual salary. So if you're losing a manager making $50,000 per year, it's going to cost approximately $50,000 to $100,000 to replace that person. If you consider the time that it takes to post a job on the internet or on your job board, screen through all the resumes that come in from job applicants, and then the interviewing process, and then finally making a hiring decision and training that person. And if they don't work out, you got to start all over again. So turnover is a very costly expense to any organization. What are the benefits of succession planning for the employees? Well, number one, it provides a possible career path. It assists in identifying what their training needs are to move up in the organization. It identifies what job experience is needed in order to move up. And again, it improves the employee morale, and it instills commitment in them Therefore, they're likely to stay with your organization rather than moving on to another organization or even a competitor. Now, succession planning is really like the depth chart for a football team. We're located here in Pittsburgh, so I looked at the depth chart for the Pittsburgh Steelers, and you can see every starter has at least one backup, in most cases 2 backups. The coach must know who to send into the game when a player is injured. Often there's a player who can back up multiple positions. If you look in the lower right-hand corner, you see that Wesley Johnson is a backup for the left tackle, left guard, and also the center. And Mike Adams is a backup for the left tackle and also the right tackle position. So, the coach develops the depth chart. The coaches are intimately familiar with it. So when that Ben Roethlisberger gets sacked and gets the wind knocked out of him, he knows that Bruce Gradkowski is going to get sent into the game right away. Now, for a corporation, they don't have a depth chart. They have a succession plan, which is pretty much the same thing. And in our sample depth chart or succession plan, we have the CEO, the Chief Operating Officer, Chief Financial Officer, Chief Human Resource Officer, Chief IT, and also the Supply Chain Officer. And we've identified, who the people are who are currently in those positions. And then if they would leave the corporation, who is going to be available to take their place. And if that person is not available or not ready, then who is the second backup? And in the case of Carol Moore, the Chief Financial Officer, there is no first backup identified at this point. Samantha Knox is identified as a possible backup, but she is not ready to assume the Chief Financial Officer's role at this point. Now, where do you start with your succession plan? Well, I suggest that you start small. Maybe do in the first year, do the C-level of your organization, the CEO and his or her direct reports. And then once you get that down, maybe the following year, move down one level, and then have all of the CEO's direct reports develop a backup plan or a succession plan for those individuals, and then the following year move down to the next level of management. So you want to identify the key positions and analyze the position and identify what are the key competencies necessary to be successful in that job. Look at the job description. Look at the performance appraisal forms for the person, and interview the incumbent and the manager, and find out what is it that this person must do in order to be successful in the position. So you would list several key competencies for each position on your succession plan. So for instance, let's take the position of Vice President of Manufacturing. And what we're showing here is on the one column, we're looking at the job responsibilities. That is, what do they do on a daily basis? And then the second column shows the key competencies, and that's how they do their job. So for the job responsibilities of the VP of Manufacturing, they manage all employees at all company production locations. They work with the CEO on business plans. They develop and manage budgets with a focus on profit and loss. They direct all production control, quality, purchasing, and shipping, receiving, and they partner with the sales team and even go out and meet with customers to find out what their needs are. So that's what they do. The competencies tell us how they do it. for our position, we're looking at they have to be a leader. They have to instill trust and provide directions to employees in the manufacturing locations. They have to be able to develop their employees and cultivate their individual talents and motivate them to do a better job. They have to be a good communicator, not just speaking to employees or through written communications, but also they have to be good listeners. They also have to take time to develop themselves. Technology changes. Change is constant, so they have to keep up with the latest development in manufacturing and also technology. And they have to be good at task management. They have to work efficiently and work completely. So once you've identified what the person is going to do and also the competencies on how they're going to do it, you want to conduct a talent review. You want to look at the possible backups or the replacements in the organization and evaluate what they can do and what they can't do now. So you want to look at that talent gap and evaluate the gaps and make a written plan to close the gap or to fill it in with in the areas, development areas that they need in order to move up into the next position in the succession plan. What hard skills do they need to have to move up to the next position? What competencies do they need to help improve themselves to become a better leader in the organization? So after you've looked at or developed a succession planning chart, you looked at the incumbents and have identified a first and second backup, you've conducted your talent gap analysis, what else can you do? What is missing? Well, what we recommend is that in order to help make better judgments about employees and employee development, we suggest using assessment tools. There are two tools in particular that we like to use with our clients. The first one is a 360-degree assessment, and the second one is called a PXT. If you're not familiar with a 360-degree assessment, it's where an employee is evaluated by his or her manager, by his or her peers, and his or her direct reports, and they also do an evaluation on themselves. So they look at the areas that are the competencies that are measured. They're typically leadership abilities, adaptability, relationship building, task management, productivity, development of others, and personal development. And so you get feedback from a wide range of individuals within the organization, and you compare it to how you evaluate yourself. And oftentimes there's a blind spot. There's an area where the individual thinks that he or she does real well. Maybe they think they're a great communicator, but the feedback from their direct reports is, no, you're not a good communicator. You do a pretty bad job of it. So that would be a key area to focus on developing that person for their next promotional opportunity. So the second assessment tool that we use is a PXT. This is developed by Profiles International. And it identifies what makes individuals successful in your organization. You establish reality versus perception, and you move from a broad-based selection process to a targeted job matching process. And this provides immediate career path information. One of the first things that we need to do in using this type of this assessment is develop a job match pattern. The job match pattern is identifying the behavioral traits and the cognitive skills of the top performers in your organization. when you look at people in a particular job in your company, let's say salespeople, maybe you have 20 salespeople, and when you evaluate them, they should come out, looking. You should have the results should be like a bell-shaped curve. You want to take a look at the people who are on the top tail end to the right of the bell, the top 16% of your performers. And what is common among them that makes them your top performers? So then you want to assess all current employees who are potential leaders and use the succession planning report to identify potential opportunities for development. So the job match pattern includes verbal and math skills and behavioral traits such as energy level, assertiveness, sociability, manageability, attitude, decisiveness, accommodation, independence, objective judgment, and then there are 6 areas of occupational interest, which we will see in next. So let's say we're looking at a sales manager, position on our succession plan, and who would be a good, backup, first backup, for the sales manager position. Well, we have Sally Sample, who is the first candidate that we're going to consider, and she is currently an inside sales representative. And we give her the assessment, the PXT assessment, and this is a summary sheet of what her results are. You look at the top, it says thinking style. This is where her cognitive skills are measured. So we have an overall learning index. We look at her verbal skills, verbal reasoning, numerical ability, and numeric reasoning. And the shaded area is the job match pattern. This is the range of the people who are successful as a sales manager. So you can see that Sally's scores are 6, 6, 7, 5, and 7. All of them are within the range. So she has a job match percentage of 95% for the thinking style. That's as high as you can get. No one ever gets 100%. The next area is the behavioral traits. So on a scale of 1 to 10, the job match pattern is 7, 8, and 9, and she has scored a 7. And then we look at assertiveness, where she is outside the pattern. Sociability, she's a little high. Manageability, a little high. And the independence, she scored a 2 when the range we're looking for is a 5, 6, or 7. So overall, she has a job match percentage of 75% on the behavioral traits. And then the third part of the assessment measures occupational interest. And as I mentioned before, there are 6 areas: enterprising, financial, administrative, people service, technical skills, mechanical skills, and creativity. And Sally's occupational interests are enterprising, financial, administrative, and people service. And this is a 93% match for this job match pattern. So overall, if you look at the very top of the page, the overall job match is an 87%, which is pretty good. We like to see 85% or better on the assessment scores. Now we have another candidate that we're considering as a backup to the sales manager, and his name is Joe Example. And his current position is outside sales rep. So we give him the Profiles XT, and we can see that his overall job match is 67%. His thinking style is a 77% match. His score on the behavioral traits is 57%. And for occupational interest, it's 69%. So if we look at the scores for Sally and Joe, and assuming that they have equal work experience, job knowledge, and competencies, who would you identify as the first backup for the sales position? I would venture to guess that we would select Sally, and then Joe would we would slate him in as the second backup. Now, if everybody in the organization has, or if you have a job match pattern for all of your jobs within your organization, you could take Sally's score and you can match it up or compare it to the job match patterns of other jobs within the organization. So on this slide, we'll take a look at what is her best match. Well, it's for an outside salesperson. It's a 91% job match. So the 90% job match has been a sales team leader, an 87% match for a sales manager, 85% match for account manager, 81% for a business development person, 75% for a marketing analyst, and only a 68% match for a VP of industrial sales. So using the rule of thumb as 85% or higher is a good score. She would be qualified or should be considered for the positions of outside sales, team leader, sales manager, and account manager. So once you have this, all this data, you've done your talent gap analysis, you've done the 360, and you've given them a profiles XT assessment. What do you do next? Well, first of all, you develop the skills needed for the individual to succeed in those higher level positions. Oftentimes, it's a good idea to provide coaching, either provide an internal coach or hire an external coach. Have mentoring programs. Also train on-the-job requirements and core competencies. So if, using our example, the vice president of manufacturing, if a potential backup is not familiar with the financial reports, doesn't know how to do a budget or read a P&L statement, you may want to provide training on those areas to get them up to speed. If it shows on the 360 that they're not a good communicator, or they have problems with task management, they can't stay focused, there are training programs that you can do to help them improve in those areas. You can also provide educational development, maybe send them to a local college or university. Maybe they need a higher degree, maybe an MBA or a master's degree in manufacturing. And also, it would be a good idea to provide stretch assignments for them to see how well they can do outside of their area of their comfort area. So here are several mistakes to avoid in the succession planning process. First of all, do not treat succession planning, or by not treating succession planning as an integral strategic process. Most boards of directors want to see a succession plan. They want to know who the backups are for the key executive leadership positions within their organization, and how close to being ready as a replacement are the backups. Another mistake is assuming that the best performers are the logical choice for promotion. I'm sure everyone has heard the story about the best salesperson gets promoted to be the sales manager, and they're just horrible at being a manager. Their strong suit is being out in the field and calling on customers. The third mistake to avoid is failure to perform that gap analysis. What the person currently knows and what they will need in order to move up into that next promotional opportunity. Also, a very common mistake is failing to establish a written plan. It has to be written, and it has to be reviewed on an ongoing basis. A lot of companies will do a succession plan. They'll have a very nice written plan, and they put it in a 3-ring binder, and it sits on their shelf until next year, and they blow the dust off of it and go through the process of updating it again. But it has to be something that is continually, worked on. Another common mistake is failure to communicate the development plan to the employees. And isn't it nice that, for the employee to know that they're being considered as a backup, to a key leader in the organization? I think that's going to help with their morale and also with their development. Failure to follow through with development plans is also another common mistake. At the time the succession plan is developed and the talent gap has been completed, they have wonderful plans for the employee, but for some reason money isn't in the budget, or everyone is just too busy in order to follow through with that, with that training. And finally, failure to maintain the process. It's a journey, not a destination. Once you develop the succession plan and develop plans for the employee to improve him or herself for that next leadership position, it has to be reviewed at least on a monthly basis, and discussions have to take place with the employee to make sure that he or she is following the plan and making satisfactory progress on improving themselves for that next opportunity. A key metric to determine how successful a succession plan is, how often do you fill a key position from within? Well, the most successful companies fill 70 to 80% of their job openings from within. It's much easier to promote somebody from within than to hire somebody from outside the organization. It's much more economical. If you bring somebody in from the outside, especially for key leadership positions, you're probably going to use a search firm. Search firms charge approximately 1/3 of the first year's annual salary. If you hire somebody from out of state, you're going to have relocation costs. It's a very expensive proposition. So in the long run, it's worthwhile to conduct or put together a thorough succession plan, conduct a talent gap analysis, and develop an individual development plan for each person who has been identified as a backup for a leadership job. So in summary, in these days of talent wars, the best way to keep your stars is to know them better than they know themselves, and then use that information to customize the career of their dreams. So we're open for any questions about succession planning. Kelly, do we have any questions?
A question that came in from, if you are interested in replacing someone who's at a C-level position, how soon should you be starting the succession planning process?
Well, I would say that you're going to need at least a year or two. I think somebody probably from the board of directors is going to need to have a conversation, with the CEO about his or her, future plans with staying within the organization, and a lot also has to do with who is identified as a successor, and how ready are they able to assume that role. But I think that you should start thinking about the process of it probably 2 years, 2 years out. And a lot of family run organizations, they just assume that one of the children are going to take over, but that may not be the case. They might not have the skills or the competencies in order to take that position over. But the sooner the better. Don't wait until the last minute to do that.
Okay, great. Chuck, this next question is interesting. Chuck, you mentioned the PXT assessment. Can you explain how that works, and what does it involve in terms of allowing us to do coaching?
Well, the PXT takes approximately an hour to complete. The way that we work with our clients is that actually there are two ways. Some clients have their own portal where they can send out invitations to take the assessment on their own. Other ones, smaller companies that do a small amount of hiring each year, they may call us and ask us to send out the invitation to take the assessment. But identify, the finalist for a key position, whether it's a promotional opportunity or you're hiring somebody from the outside. You need their name and their email address, and you send them an invitation to take the XT. They click on the link, they sign in, they take the assessment online, they hit the submit button, that information goes into Profiles International computer, the assessment is scored, and the results are sent to the designated person within the corporation, typically an HR manager or a recruiter or the hiring manager, or all of the above. A report of about 15, 16 pages is sent along with a graph that shows the percent match to the performance model. The report also includes a description of how well they met the behavioral traits and what does it mean, what does their score mean. And then there are suggested interview questions. There are behavioral-based interview questions to delve a little bit more deeply into a person's experiences or job-related behaviors. And so once the potential candidates have taken the assessments, then you can compare the results, how well they meet that the job match pattern, which is based on the top performers in your organization. So we recommend that this is not a go, no-go tool. It is only 1/3 of the decision-making process. You also need to consider the person's experience and job knowledge, and then the third part is successful completion of a criminal background check, Social Security verification, and a drug screen. If you don't do that, we recommend that as part of the screening process for hiring somebody from outside the organization.
Okay. And, I don't see any other questions right now, Chuck. If something comes up and you have a question, please feel free to email us. You see Chuck's email and my email on the screen. We look forward to working with you and hope that you have a succession plan that works well for you. We would love to help in any way, and so pick our brain. We look forward to hearing from you. Thank you.
Thank you. Goodbye.